Hey guys, just in case anybody missed it during the meeting, I thought I'd record how to use this discovery template and give you guys some tips and tricks, and having created it for a couple of months now. So the first tab you come across is revision control. And if you've used any of the 22 I filled out so far, you'll note that the first thing I do is do a version 0.01. I put my name in there, and it's generally me going on the web and just searching anything I can before any of the sales docs are turned over to me or anything else. So a little super sleuthing before I get anything right after I know the customer name. The second revision I generally do is after the PMs have reached out and gotten some of the discovery materials back. So some of their POs, their invoices, if we're lucky, they're ISO 9000 compliant. We've got some process flows. I'll do a revision 0.02, still in draft form. Again, me, describe the reason for the change, the date, and whatnot. And usually version 3 or 4 is when I'm on site. So that's kind of what you'll see if you get a document that's been turned over from me. The next thing you get is key information. It's a little bit busy on purpose, and we can fix some of that. But the blue are highlighted that way, so we know that goes on the discovery report. They're also copy and pasted questions directly from the sales transition doc, so we can copy in the answers and we're not duplicating efforts. So it's a little clunky, but it still works. I'd get familiar with it. So we have additional information such as their turnover rate, usually something I'd ask on site. I put their logo in there. I like to brand everything I give them from that point forward with their own logo, so I just tend to put it on this document. Compliance regulations, are they ISO 9000, ITAR, that kind of stuff? Dress code, kind of nice to know before you get on site if there's a specific dress code or if you need to bring your steel-toed shoes, etc. Modules purchased. This is really important. As soon as I get this and I know this information, I go down to these tabs, skip the pain points for now, and I change the color of these to green, indicating that that is a module that this customer has purchased. So you'll note which ones have been purchased by the customer by them being green. I would also double check that because there have been some sales documents that have been hard to decipher, so I'm not sure. But in general, that's what we try and do. I'm going to scroll up so don't get nauseous. Any of the stuff you want to add to change, feel free to add columns. There's no driving force behind it. But it does copy and paste nicely, like I said, in the discovery report. Key information is what we were just looking at. The next are pain points. So let's come back to this after we've been on site, or if they are kind enough to give you some of those pain points up front, I start filling these in. And I try to fill in comments or descriptions about where I got that information or what's driving it, kind of that good stuff. And then we start driving right into the tabs on the bottom. By the way, note over here on the left-hand side, I can right-click. And this is kind of a key of all the tabs. So I don't know about you, but often on site, customers are all over the place. They're describing the AP process, and then they flip over to customers, and then they talk about master data, and then they might interject something about a BOM. So the reason we set up the tabs at the bottom was so you can move back and forth really quickly and note information. However, it does require you know what questions are in there, so let's get familiar with it. The first one, like I said, is quoting and estimating. The top question will almost always start with an open-ended question. Tell me a story or tell me about your process. And your job is to, in this column, in that little cell, gather as much information as you can while they're chatting. Now, your best bet is to type up here in the cell box. Otherwise, it starts bleeding into other cells and getting messy. So that's a little tip. I get really messy with my notes. It's more important to listen to what the clients are saying. So I take raw notes, bullet points, key reminders, and at the end of the day, I go in and try and fill it out and tell a story. But again, all of these tabs are going to start with an open-ended question. And again, that's for the discovery report. So you can copy and paste whatever blurb is in here right into the discovery report and tell a story about their CRM quoting estimating process. All right. The next are just bullet points that I may get when they're telling me this story. If so, while I'm reading them, I kind of fill them in or verbalize out loud and just say, okay, let me verify what I heard. So it doesn't feel like a big light bulb over their head with a giant interrogation. I want it to feel like a living room conversation. So what I do with these answers is often on the discovery report, I just put them in as bullet points. You'd be surprised at how much information you gather. And if you're doing a 2-day, fill these in as best you can. Like I said, go in at night, fill them in some more, because sometimes I do take handwritten notes if I'm walking around or if we're at lunch and something juicy came up that I want to note. I go back and fill it in as soon as I can. I don't want to bore you to tears, so moving along, the sales order management, same thing. Tell me about your sales order entry process. If I've gotten information beforehand, process flows or sales order forms, whatnot, I'll make this window a little bit smaller down here. I will copy and paste them into different areas of this spreadsheet so people can see what's been supplied. It's not intended for you to blow up and see the details of. It's just so you know it's in their discovery folder and you can go reference the live version if you want to. Again, the first one is open-ended. The rest are details. And if pain points come up, or at the end of my interview with those people, I always ask, okay, what keeps you up at night? What would you solve if this project were completely in your hands? And I document those pain points here, which become the pain points, and then the SMART goals for the project. Contact management, again, let's scroll over. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to make you dizzy. A description of the module is always over here. Because sometimes they ask, well, what does it do? Tell me about. I was not an M1 expert when I started, although I'm getting there. This was a nice little, hey, I don't want to deep dive into what M1 does, but here's a little blurb about what the contact management module will do. This is every opportunity for you to sell more. Again, it starts with an open-ended question, which again translates right to the discovery report. And then the others are bullet points. Please feel free to add to these questions if you need to, and we'll talk about how to share any of those questions that you add with the rest of us. Hey, you might notice this column here, D, summary report. All this is doing is I've gone through and I've mapped the answers to where they should appear on the discovery report. So again, you can just copy and paste, bloop, right into that paragraph, and this makes creating that report a lot easier. Moving from left to right, follow-up management, again, open-ended question, couple of other questions like what tools do you use, what's the format. If they didn't answer it already, try to capture that. Again, at the end of the night, if you go through and you realize you haven't gotten these questions, just use your own format to document the outstanding questions and go in and fill them in. Again, I like to go back through and save, by the way, a lot, because I do go back and forth between these as people pop in and out of the discovery sessions. Oh, I see a typo there. Wonderful. I'll fix that. Payroll. So this is up to you. If they did not purchase some of these modules, like payroll as an add-on, if you have time, fill it out. It gives you a better business case to sell them that module if you have this information. So the more is better. And again, I always explain to my clients, this is only phase 1 of their project. So why not gather as much information as possible while on site? If you can't, don't worry about it. Time card management. Again, you could combine some of these modules, but I like them separated because generally these areas are managed by different functional experts. So it just helps me go back and forth. I recommend, again, going through all of these questions before you go on a discovery. Take a look at the documents that are available to you. Fill in as much as you can. You gain a whole lot of credibility when you say, oh yeah, I noticed in the document it was an Excel spreadsheet and you're managing your bombs that way. So take some time to go through here. Sometimes the questions repeat themselves. Now, one, I warn all our clients that I might repeat questions. I do that to see if I get a consistent answer from multiple people or even the same person. And 2, I often do it when other people have joined the group just again to verify that I heard it correctly. But again, I also do that to cover my bases because I'll ask multiple questions, or the same question rather, in multiple modules. And if I'm doing 3 discoveries a week, I'll be honest, sometimes I forget the answer or that they've already answered it, so I pose it as a validation. So again, once you get better at this, that'll come second nature where all the questions lie. But just know, and another thing, clients don't use a one-for-one verbal relationship to what we use in our world to what they use. So a job might be a project to them, might be a sales order to them. A sales order might be everything, including a traveler and a router. So take a second to get that nomenclature right to define what you're describing. Sometimes they'll bring up weird subjects at an odd time, like I said. So you're talking about the GL and they'll talk about nonconformance. So I like to use the little find button and type in nonconformance because I can't remember maybe if it's in quality or the DMR or the RMA, or I know where it is, but if you don't, that's a quick and easy way to find where some of the questions are so you can note them in the appropriate place. Again, as you go through, you'll always find open-ended questions at the top, details at the bottom. They translate to the discovery report. It's very easy to capture pain points as you're going through. Note there is that hidden column there. I just didn't want to make it busy, but it does direct you to where the answers that you see correspond to the discovery report. We'll go over that at a later time. I just, again, wanted to get you familiar with some of the shortcuts. If you right-click, you can navigate through these very quickly, which gives you an advantage when you're talking to a customer. Again, you can keep saving, but note what it is the question they're answering at the time. Again, click in the cell and then answer in the formatting tool up above, so you can get complete sentences or copy and paste features to put in the discovery report at a later time. If you have any questions, you know where to reach me. I hope this has helped, and I appreciate your time. Thanks, guys.